Welcome to the Aging Adventure. I'm Dale Johnson. Legacy retirement communities have been the gold standard here in Lincoln for independent living, service, and programming since 1995, when Jerry Joyce became inspired to create legacy retirement communities for his mother, Bernice. A lot has developed in 26 years, and we talk about it every Saturday morning here on KFOR during the Aging Adventure with John Kopetsky, Executive Director of Legacy Terrace at 5700 Fremont Street, and Kathy Blythe, who brings to the conversation her award-winning history here on KFOR and a very deep connection to legacy within the community. John and Kathy, good morning.
Morning, Dale.
Good morning.
For some seniors, life is never quite the same after a fall. So the best way to keep senior living moving on is to prevent falls from happening. Our expert on that subject in a few minutes is Katie Johnson, Wellness Director of Legacy Retirement Communities. But first, we have a musical theme for you on the Aging Adventure. Mike Semrad joins us a little bit later on. Mike is a singer-songwriter, Lincoln business owner, to talk about carrying on a senior's love of music. That's ahead after music therapist Jennifer Beuhler talks with John and Kathy about music therapy and the aging brain.
Jennifer, welcome. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
What is music therapy?
Well, the official definition is music therapy is the clinical and evidence-based use of music intervention to accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship by a credentialed professional who has completed an approved music therapy program. Obviously, that's a bit of a mouthful and it's a bit jargony. You know, music therapists have specialized training and they work with a variety of populations, including the elderly, using music to achieve therapeutic goals.
Jennifer, is it just a matter of bringing something comforting from someone's past and reintroducing it to them, or does it go deeper than that?
That can be part of it. You know, that's where family and friends have an advantage over me because they know more about that individual's past. But it's also about finding meaning. There's also a subspecialty of music therapy called neurologic music therapy that's used in rehabilitation.
Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit more about how the actual effect that music has on our brain and how we can use that as a tool?
Well, the effect that music has on the brain, it's pretty complex. I did some quick research yesterday, and they're just in the Journal of Music Therapy alone, there's over 400 articles on music and the brain. And it kind of depends. Rhythm affects kind of those more primal parts of the brain. And that's why it's great for rehab, for movement. Also, you know, when we encode memory, it doesn't just, it's not like there's just one spot in our brain that controls memory. And you know, you've probably had an experience where you smell a certain smell and it brings you back. And so music really connects with memory because it can touch more than one part of the brain at once. You know, a lot of us have heard that whole left brain, right brain thing, and that's really an oversimplification. Music is processed in a lot of areas of the brain at once. And for instance, people who've had strokes, especially on the left side of their brain, often have issues in speaking and understanding speech, aphasia. Well, because music connects those different parts of the brain, music can be used in speech rehabilitation.
So is there something different in the aging, of the person who's aging, how music interacts with their brain as opposed to, say, somebody in their teens or 20s or 30s?
There's kind of this thought about the music that's most meaningful to us is from when we were younger, because we're still developing that prefrontal cortex. There's all those hormones and emotions going on. So there are those differences. But I think, you know, we can all hear and enjoy and participate in music no matter our age.
And so, can we just do this also in our own lives as caregivers, or maybe on a day that we're having, needing a pick-me-up? Music can really be true therapy. As you do that as a profession, we have experienced that as individuals.
Yeah, I recommend this past weekend, This American Life aired an episode about music, and they had a segment about someone working in, he wasn't a music therapist, but working in a nursing home that had one of his residents give reviews of different music. And it was a really big thing for them to be able to sit down and enjoy music together. That's something we can all do, is sit and listen with someone and say, what is it about this music that you like? And here's some music that I like. What do you think of it? There are also, right now, ukulele is a big thing with someone who has good fine motor coordination, or even, kind of so-so. It's an instrument that's easily available and can be played and enjoyed. You don't even have to be part of a group. That's something that people can do on their own. There's just a lot of different ways.
Jennifer, thank you so much for the subject of music therapy and the brain. I know music has a tremendous impact on folks of all ages, and it's something that we can certainly use to enhance our brain health and lift our mood as well.
Thank you, Jennifer, very much. Coming up on The Aging Adventure, if music is important to you before senior living, why not keep it that way in a senior living environment? More of The Aging Adventure is coming up. We're back on The Aging Adventure to continue talking about the power of music. I'm Dale Johnson with John and Kathy. Music keeps people young, so it's important to foster that love, even in a senior living environment. On that topic, we bring in Mike Semrad. Mike is a singer, a songwriter, and Lincoln businessman, joining us on The Aging Adventure. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. What a cast of characters here. This is exciting.
It's great to have you with us, Mike. Can you take us back in time a bit into your family tree? Let us know how music became a part of your life and your family's life.
It's hard to know where to start. I don't remember a time where music wasn't in my life. At 4 years old, I was performing for elderly living facilities and state fairs, and I was on the back of trailer beds all over the state of Nebraska and beyond. My uncles toured with Johnny Cash back in the 50s. And my father was on American Bandstand in the 60s. And so, music's been our way of communicating as a family and just showing our love that way and truly finding the magic in music.
Sounds like music is the family business. I mean, with your dad and your dad being, you said he was known as Dick Clark on American Bandstand. Is that?
Yeah, he got to speak and stand next to Dick Clark, but his nickname was Pinky, and he was in a band called the Smoke Ring. In 1969, they had a hit song called No Not Much. And it was right when bubblegum music met psychedelic music. So it was a really interesting time in music history. People didn't quite know where to go or where to take music, but 1968-69 was a very fascinating time in music history.
So we've got one branch of the family touring with Johnny Cash and another one doing bubblegum music. What's your niche in music, Mike?
Honestly, it's exactly both of those things. I love country music and bluegrass and the traditional music, but I've also been inspired by rock and roll and the rebelliousness of all that as well. And so my wife and I are in a band called the Bottle Tops, which is really kind of a collective mishmash of both of those things. And we've played for the residents at Legacy quite often, and we just love it. And people seem to love us, so we keep doing it. And so that's kind of what we do. We do kind of a throwback, old-timey sound with bluegrass and country music, and very much inspired by Johnny Cash and his wife, June Carter, and the Carter family.
Oh, that's wonderful, Mike. No matter what the season or what the reason, you love making music. And I know that the people who are listening to you are enjoying it too. You took it a step further. A lot of people felt like they had to stop what they were doing, and for good reason, during the pandemic. But you found kind of a workaround so that you could still bring your joy and your love of music to people without close contact.
We did. And thank you for asking about that. It was kind of an interesting thing, and we just won a Prism Award for doing what we did, which was very exciting. What we did was, a friend of mine with a rickshaw company called me and said, I'm out of work. I can't take my rickshaws down to the Husker games anymore and give people rides on the back of bicycles. So what do you say we team up? And I said, fantastic. Because at the time I was doing some outdoor shows for Legacy, and some different people wanted me to come by and sing at their houses and stuff like that. And so I said, well, let's put this thing on a mobile train, basically. So my friend pulled me around on the back of a bicycle, and I built this we built this battery operated PA system. And so we could be a little louder. And sure enough, it was just like the old politicians used to march through the streets. It was just amazing. And we threw our songs off the side of this little rickshaw and performed all throughout the streets of Lincoln. And so it really brought the entertainment to the people, which was really fantastic. So, and the Lead Center teamed up with me on that. And together we won a Prism Award just recently for that. So that was really cool.
That's outstanding. And I know when you were here at the Legacy Terrace, it was, as I recall, it was one of those days in the spring when the wind was howling out of the north. And the fact you were able to keep from freezing out there may have been the biggest achievement that day. But I know the residents just loved it. And it was just to see the look on their face, like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
And then to enjoy the music beyond that.
Yes. And, I had seen early on in the pandemic, I had seen a video of a saxophone player going out on his balcony. And he was in this huge apartment complex. And he went out on his balcony and started playing music. And all the people came out of their apartments. And so it instantly made me think, like, we can do this too. And sure enough, a member of the Rodenberg family, she's at one of the facilities here in Lincoln. She came out of her apartment and stood on her balcony and listened to me play music in the parking lot. And it just felt so amazing. It was exactly the feeling that I felt when I saw that photo of the saxophone player in France doing that.
That's very cool, Mike. And unfortunately, we don't have very much time left, but one of our big themes on the Aging Adventure is to remind people and to remind ourselves that it's never too late. And you hear that lament from people a lot, don't you? I wish I would have taken piano lessons when I was younger, or played this instrument, or sang with a group. And your message to them is...
It's never too late. That's absolutely exactly what I would say. And I get so many people calling me even today saying, I'd love to play guitar and I've always wanted to play piano. And I say, just do it. That's really the first step to anything, is just to do it. And, with YouTube the way it is now, you can literally give yourself a free lesson on your own time. You don't need to pay for it. So it's, but I'm not telling you not to pay for it. There's a lot of great teachers out there. So, you do that on your own moral accord.
Music equals joy. Mike Simrad, thank you so much for making beautiful music and spreading it to others, and for being with us today and spreading your message.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to Kelly and the team over at Legacy. And John, thanks so much for having me. This is a nice joy. Thank you so much for keeping my Wednesday light.
Thanks, Mike. Next, the impact that falls have on the lives of seniors when the Aging Adventure continues. I'm Dale Johnson with John and Kathy on the Aging Adventure. Joining us now is Katie Johnson, Wellness Director at Legacy Terrace, to tell us the impact that falls have on seniors and ways to reduce or prevent those falls.
Katie, good morning. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So when I was privileged enough to get into the senior living profession, I heard right away about preventing falls. And I'm thinking, well, you don't prevent spring, summer, or winter. How can you prevent a fall? But that's not what we're talking about. It's not the season. It's that unfortunate incident we're trying to prevent. Can you name some common and not so common factors we should all pay attention to in helping to prevent some falls?
You bet. I think when many people think about falling and the risk of falling, the main thing they think of is my balance is bad. And so what I like to remind people is that causes of falls are very, very broad, and reasons for falling are very broad. Yes, muscle weakness, those types of things that can affect balance can cause falls, but things also such as impaired vision, macular degeneration, glaucoma, all those types of things can cause problems. Also medications. If you're on multiple medications, sometimes those counteract each other and can cause issues. Vestibular issues, hearing problems really can cause falls. So it's a lot. Blood pressure, being female. There's so many things that are risk factors. And it's just good for everybody to be aware how broad of a topic it is.
And not only the physiological causes or factors that you listed, but environmentally as well. The environment in your home can certainly contribute if you're not careful.
Absolutely. Many people like to make their place pretty, but sometimes pretty things can be unsafe. So, making sure little things in your house, your apartment, those types of things are safe and appropriate for as you age and the risk of falls.
Can you give us some specific precautions that we can take and proactive things we can do, Katie?
Absolutely. So the main one that I obviously love is staying active, and being sedentary is a huge risk factor for those falls. So staying active and including both balance exercises and strength exercises in a daily workout. It'll help keep those muscles strong, keep the ankles and those things having good range of motion. So I'm just big on exercise. So that one's huge for me. But also, we just briefly touched on home safety. So having an outside set of eyes that know what to look for in an apartment or a house to make sure things are safe. Having a pharmacist check over your medication list. You might have all these doctors put you on different medications, but they might not all talk. So having a pharmacist look at those and see which side effects they have to make sure they're not counteracting each other. Appropriate clothing is also necessary, making sure that hems on your pants are, not too long, that you don't trip on your hems. Proper footwear, making sure it has the appropriate surface, making sure the sole of the shoe is the right one for you. And then also another one is proper nutrition. A lot of people don't think about the importance of vitamin D and calcium. And so making sure those are plentiful in your diet to keep those bones strong and keep you safe and healthy.
I know we talked about this, touched on it a little earlier about things you can do in your home, but there are so many other things that really you might not think about until, unfortunately, it's too late and there's been a fall.
Sure. I think the first things you think of when you think of home safety would be the rugs. A lot of people like to put pretty throw rugs down, but those can be a trip hazard. So if you do have a rug, make sure it has a non-slip surface on the bottom. Also things like appropriate hallway lighting. If you're one who gets up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, sometimes hallways aren't appropriately lit, and that's where falls can happen. So making sure we have night lights and things like that. Something else is the length of bedspreads on people's beds. Nice pretty ones sometimes hang on the ground, but that can be a fall hazard. So making sure those are up off the floor. Extension cords. There's a whole list of things you can do. And I think when you're in your own environment and it becomes so routine for you, you don't notice some of those hazards. So, there are great checklists that you can find online, print off and say, okay, in each of my rooms, I'm going to look and see if this is a hazard. So not necessarily having to bring in an expert, but also just being more aware of your surrounding.
I know that you have a lot of success stories of people that have been helped, that came to you because they'd been falling a lot and you found solutions for them and really turned things around in their lives, Katie. And unfortunately, we don't have time to hear those stories this time. So we'll have to have part 2 of Katie Johnson. But thanks so much for the good work that you're doing. Really, falls can make all the difference in whether or not ultimately you have to have nursing home care. Isn't that a
yes.
fact?
I mean, that's the main thing we hear is people want to stay as independent as long as possible. And the stronger you are and the safer you are, the longer you're going to be independent.
Thank you very much, Katie. Living the best possible life, whether that's at home or in a senior living community, certainly includes a safe life, and music plays a big part in the lives of many seniors. Music therapist Jennifer Beuhler and Lincoln's singer-songwriter Mike Semrad joined us for the conversation today. John, how can listeners reach out to the Legacy?
You can call us at 402-436-3000 or visit our website. Lots of great information on there at legacyretirement.com.
And Kathy, thank you. We'll talk next week. This is Dale Johnson on The Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities.